So where is my Gentility team? Well, they're right here. They're right here the whole time. This is where they've always been. Alright, so we're on chapter 24, and I want to do a weekend update. It's actually a Wednesday, but we're going to do a weekend update live in the middle of this game. Okay, so first of all, what was the point of Gentility team? Why did I want to do it? So I wanted to make a team that leveraged Gentility and Bravery as a form of tanking and damage increase on tome and occasional dagger units. It has good mid-game availability, so that was like the premise. And overall, I would say this team is good. There's some things that could be different about it, but I was also testing other builds, like weird things that maybe you should run, maybe you shouldn't. This build's okay, but alright, so let's go over the main unit. Let's go over the actual Erica unit. So this is a Chloe build. Now, when she switches over to Ephraim mode, she gets plus 5 damage from Bravery Plus, and then plus 3 damage from having Erica, which gives plus 3 magic. So plus 8 damage, right? So this allows her to one run on Levin Sword very consistently. She's on Griffin Knight, which is already quite fast, with speed plus 5. Right now, she's base 40 speed. And that's including the weapon weight of 3. So the Chloe build, it's a Griffin Knight build. This works out. This is fine. This is totally viable. There's nothing wrong with this. This is a legit build. I would say this is like one of Chloe's best builds. You can run any ring on her on this build. This is just one of many rings she can use. So this build is definitely a success. All right, so now let's go over the builds that are using Gentility, starting with some of the weird ones. So Yunaka Mage Knight. All right, there's some theory behind this, okay? I didn't just pull this out of nowhere. The idea behind this is that Yunaka can power level on Micaiah while also getting kills and being early, like a good contributor of the early to mid game, and then eventually switch over to Mage Knight to be a 11 sword unit. However, her speed isn't as good as you would hope, and her magic isn't as good as you would hope. So with Gentility, she would be 43 magic attack. I'm sorry, with Bravery Plus, she'd be 45, which is decent and probably can still one-round most things, but the speed kind of isn't there. She's running Leaf just to reduce the build because she doesn't have enough build without Leaf to wield the Levin Sword, so she'd be -3 speed without Leaf. But this build is okay. This I would say is like a B tier, so I can't recommend this. With the speed tonic and a weight reducing emblem and maybe like Sigurd, I don't know, but this one I don't really recommend. It was an experiment. It didn't work out. All right. Who else? Definitely none of these. Oh yeah, Citrine. So Citrine Mage Knight. Honestly, just make her a Thoron Sage. The idea was that she was going to be Elfire. She has more speed on Elfire. Go for doubles, but she's still way too slow. So even at 24 speed, she's still missing substantial speed. The only thing she's doubling are like armors, which is fine, I guess, but that's like the bare minimum. She's not doubling much else. She can double mages, but she's not killing those with magic because they're res tanks. So that build I don't recommend. The Citrine Mage Knight build, so the Yunaka Mage Knight build and the Citrine Mage Knight build, I don't recommend at all. Citrine is a good Thoron nuke though, on Sage, and that's totally fine. Alright, so that's... There are those builds. There's also the Ivy Gentility build. This build works. This build 1000% works. This is S tier. Ivy Lynn, you know, for speed, just to get her doubling. Now, you can run other things. You can run like Ivy Byleth, so she gets +3 speed from Byleth, then with +5 speed. And a speed tonic, she'd be essentially +10 speed. So there's that. Outside of that, though, if you don't run her on Lynn, she's not going to be doubling very consistently. She'll be doubling like semi-consistently. But she's kind of like a Citrine with more bulk and flying. With Gentility, she's able to one-round consistently as a hard carry, so this is definitely a viable build that works. The Bravery damage tends to push her up. Bolg, so look at her build. She's 10 build right now, so her Bolganone weighs nothing for her, so she's kind of like a bruiser that just needs speed fixing. So in this case, I would say this is like S tier, maybe high A tier. Next we have Pandreo. This build definitely works, so if you just look at his speed, his Bolg weighs nothing for him, and with Byleth, he's like a siege tome, and if you also use like a tonic, you can get him to 35 speed in this case pretty easily. So 35 speed is enough to double a lot of enemies. Probably not these heroes, but he can double like these slower enemies. He isn't doubling these though. These are sword masters, but he'll definitely double the armors. He'll double these. He'll double pretty much anything that isn't fast. But unfortunately, this is endgame, and there are a lot of fast enemies, so he's going to struggle to double, but he can still super poke. And of course, he can get dance to push him over the threshold. This build, I would say, is like high A tier, maybe S tier if he's doubling more consistently, or if you get his speed up higher, which can be achieved through like super instruct, through dancing, through tonics, through debuffing enemy speed, and so on. So I would say like high A tier. He's probably better off on Mage Knight if you want to one round more consistently. You get the +3 speed passive, you get more base speed. You also get slightly higher speed growth, and I think +1 more build, but he doesn't usually need the build. And he's actually a build cap right now from just leveling up. So I would say this is like low S, high A tier. Pretty viable build. The bravery damage does matter, and he has good enough stats to make use of this. This Merrin build, I would actually say is S tier as well. You just slap Ike on her, get her speed plus, gentility, bravery, and the nice thing about this is you engage the Erica unit, and now she's even more tanky, and it boosts her dagger damage. She has crit rate on Ike as she loses health. She can enemy phase. She doesn't get broken by almost anything except for punching enemies, which there are very few of, and they're easier to manage because they're always towards the back line of enemy formations. So she can just move in and just tank a bunch of things in 1 to 2 range and kill things. So definitely one of the best builds to come out of this. Highly recommend running it. It's pretty fun to use, pretty good. For other builds that don't use gentility, bravery, the dancer, there's nothing new there, it's just a dancer. The sage Hortensia, so she's a Micaiah bot on sage that can Thoron debuff. She also has speed plus to go for doubling on Elfire if she wants it, just to like double armors or something. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty good. It's not exclusive to this team though. This was just a generic Fram unit, nothing crazy there. And then this build I've went over before. This is the dual assist hero build. So it's a brave sword build that can also use javelin to give brave assist. So it's brave sword, brave assist, and it's not the best Lucina build, but it's a Lucina build that's decent because you get dual assist for free, and then you can also one round. Like, look at my speed right now, 29 speed. So pretty good, pretty good speed. I do lose a little bit of speed on brave sword, not that much. You can also use Folkvanger to accurately one round outside of brave sword. You get a little bit more speed, so it's kind of nice. This build is okay. I would say this is like A tier. Well, it's not okay. It's pretty good, but Bonded Shield is like God tier, so you're throwing out Bonded Shield consistency. Now, 80% Bonded Shield is still consistent enough that you're going to be keeping dudes alive and tanking small groups of enemies as long as, you know, you have a somewhat tanky ally that you're using it on, but it's, you know, it's fine. It's mostly used for this is a more offensive use of Lucina rather than like a enemy phase use of it. We also have Saline. She's just a Thoron nuke. She gets the debuff and quality time for free from Saline. I'm sorry, from Corrin. And then Veil. This is just a standard low cost Veil build. You hand her a ring that you just got back. You second seal her on the Griffin Knight. Levin sword +4, +3 to 4 with a new engraving you just got. And then you spend her SP to get speed +3 and sword power. And she can one round and double a lot of things right out of the gates. And then if you also get her speed +5 and then use a tonic on her, she's going to be doubling and one rounding a lot of enemies for free. So this has nothing to do with this run. And then of course this Gold Mary build. This is just a dual assist speed plus build. This build, I think if I got the Roy up, she'd be +6 strength max, so she'd be +4 more damage, putting her at 33. That's enough to deal some chip damage, so she could chip damage some enemies and maybe go for kills on some of these, but even so, like, they're quite tanky. But mostly she just like attacks enemies that are broken or that can't counterattack and then just dual assists. And then she also has Roy to have a get out of jail free card. But the best builds that definitely came out of this, the Merrin tank for sure. The Pandreo build's pretty good. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Timmera. So this I did not run her the whole time. I actually started using her very late. I deployed her on Roy's Paralog and that's it. And after I did that, I got her up to speed and here's where she's at now. She's a Lance Power 5 speed +5 Sigurd units who can 1 round on Javelin and 1 round on Fensalar. She has 53 physical attack on Fensalar and can 1 round with that Sandstorm. Same thing with Javelin. And Javelin can 1 round when Sandstorm triggers high health enemies. Same thing with Fensalar. And she can also roll Sandstorm triggers by going for Brave Lance attacks. This Brave Lance is quite light, so it's actually lighter than... Oh no, it gives speed plus, I'm sorry. It is light for a Brave Lance, but I also did give it speed +5 and damage passive, so it actually hits like a truck for a Brave weapon, and it can also increase her speed. So she can run up to enemies and roll, 4 attempts at a Sandstorm, and right now her dex is 35, so she has a very high chance of rolling a Sandstorm, especially when quadding. When doubling, her chance to roll a Sandstorm is probably like 60% or so for a single Sandstorm to appear, but when quadding, it's probably around like 80. So pretty consistent. She also has momentum damage. She can use Tearfing to get res plus if she wants it. But she can also use Rider's Bane to override Calves for massive damage and trigger Sandstorm and overrides. So this was kind of like a low investment build I ran late. Like I had her join, I don't know, chapter 20. so from base to this, from chapter 20, now she's one of my hard carries. And she's actually better than units I've been using the whole time. Like she outperforms Yunaka, Citrine, Gold Mary, Saline. She outperforms Hortensia as a combat unit. She actually outperforms like 80% of my team as combat units, even though I deployed her late. So yeah, that's it for this one. I just wanted to go over the team, where they're at, how good the builds are, roughly speaking where I rank them, and which builds are worthwhile to run and which units are worthwhile to run with this team comp. So definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.